Hi there, this is Christina Simmons with the Say Yes to Holiness podcast. I'm so glad that you're able to join me today, and I'm super excited to be able to introduce you to my guest, Monica McConkey. She's author of a recently released book, and also she does lots of great ministry, particularly for families, so I'm just really excited for everybody to meet her. So Monica, welcome to the podcast, and where are you? And tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Well, thank you very much for having me here. My name is Monica McConkey, and I live up near Toronto, Ontario, up in Canada, with my husband, Bill, and we have 5 kids. They range from 24 down to 10. And about 20 years ago, I started writing a book. I wrote a book called A Treasure Chest of Traditions for Catholic Families. I have no idea if that's backwards or not for you. No?
That's great.
Excellent. So I wasn't expecting to write a book. I'm trained in architecture. I have a Bachelor of Architecture. And but I thought that I was just going to collect some ideas for my other mom friends. You know, we were moms of little kids, and I just started collecting ideas. But the thing with the Catholic faith is when you tap into the liturgical calendar, it turned into a 300-page book. So it was no longer a little pamphlet. So we talked to a few publishers, and then in the end, we decided to self-publish. And we did little trade shows. We'd pack up the kids in the car and travel to the States and go to conferences and jump into little bookstores here and there and tell them about our book. And then in 2002, we were blessed to have the last remaining relative of our Holy Father, St. John Paul II, in our town.
Wow.
This woman, Elizabeth, she was married to Carol, who was she was married to Ludwig, who was Carol's first cousin. And I don't know if you remember how John Paul II, he lost his mother at a very early age, and then he lost a brother, and he lost his dad. He was fairly young. So he would actually spend summers with this cousin, Ludwig. And so our pastor, who's a close family friend, he just called us one day in the middle of World Youth Day, and he ran over, and I was at World Youth Day, but my husband gave him one of our books, the Treasure Chest book, and he ran it over to Elizabeth, and then a limo picked her up and took her up to Strawberry Island, where the Holy Father was staying. And she showed him my book. And from what she tells me, he flipped through my book, and then he pointed at my picture at the back, and he said, "Tell her to keep doing this." So I said,
wow.
Okay. And that's what I've been doing ever since. So just over the years, I've been adding craft kits and quizzing cards, really trying to create tools that will help families celebrate the liturgical calendar with activities and crafts packed with saints, catechism, sacraments, prayers, mass, everything, so that just fun ways to get them engaged and get them celebrating and learning about their faith. So a few years ago, I made a deck of cards. There are 54 saints cards in this deck, and it's a quizzing game, but you can play real card games with it, and it's almost like a friendly war game. So the kids, they pick up the facts about the saints. They're just these quick quantifiable facts on all the cards. So it's kind of like Pokemon, but it's so much better, right? So and the neat thing about this, it really is kind of a family affair, because my daughter Kelly, my second daughter, when she was 16, she drew all the saints that I work with now. And so I've digitized all her artwork, and I've made craft kits and different things to get, just to foster love for the saints, because I love the saints so much. So I'm not sure if you're there.
Yep. No, I'm here.
Okay.
And my challenge is that I couldn't take myself off mute. So technically challenged today. I was so engaged hearing, but so many of the So I was at a huge parish here in our diocese, and before it split, it had, like 2,700 families, and there's tons of families. And exactly what you're, talking about is exactly the kind of resources and things that they would love to have. In fact, that's part of why, part of where I think we kind of crossed paths before, because we're part of a Facebook group together, Catholic social media influencers, I think, but was through the mom bundles that Laura Lee started doing a couple of years ago. And so you're a part of that one that's coming out next Monday, right? The
That's
new
right.
app. Okay. So
Yep. And
yeah.
I've created a little calendar, and it has all the saints. Again, these same images that are in the Super Saints cards. They have all the saints marking all the feast days and the monthly devotion, just to kind of help families celebrate the liturgical calendar. So
Yeah.
it's just, and these, I don't know, I'm a little biased, but these saints are super cute. And it really, they seem to attract kids. Kids just love them. And I was amazed when we first we produced this deck of cards for the World Meeting of Families in 2015. And
Mhm.
by the time I gave my first deck to my daughter Bridget, who was probably like 10, and within, I don't know, she had them for about a half an hour, and then she wanted to play the game with me, and she beat me. Like, she just she picked up the facts. Like, she could guess what card you were holding just by, she knew the details from the saints so well. So it's just been a great passion of ours to create these tools and activities.
Mhm.
The interesting thing, I guess, as my kids get older, my focus has kind of changed a little bit. We still celebrate the liturgical calendar, and we still love the saints. I'm not the only one around here that loves the saints. Um, but I found that with my kids' formation, as important as catechism is, and celebrating the saints' feast days, and all the rich traditions of our Catholic Church, I really want to help them be formed in prayer. And
Mhm.
I guess, I grew up as a cradle Catholic. I always went to mass. And then when I went off to university, I suddenly, I was still going to mass, but it was because I follow the rules. I'm a rule
Right.
follower. So I just continued to go. And I hadn't really made my faith my own. And then I met this particular priest who was the chaplain at the university at Carleton University in Ottawa. And he's one of a new order of priests called the Companions of the Cross.
Mhm. Your audio went out, but I can see you. So it's weird. So anyway, um, so can I hear you now?
Yep, yep.
There we go.
Okay, so
There
I
we go.
so so I met this priest, and he's on fire with the Holy Spirit. He still is. You can find him on YouTube. He just he loves Our Lady, and he was the first one really to help me understand that we're called to have a personal relationship with Jesus. God
Mhm.
isn't just up there, and every now and then we throw some prayers at him, but we're called to have this intimate relationship with Jesus. We can talk to him, we can share with him, and he can even speak to our hearts if we're listening. So I guess back then, that's when it started for me. And actually, my thesis project, my final thesis in architecture school, was called, it was it was the study, it was acknowledging the presence of God within the home. So
Mhm.
I was trying to use design elements and special materials and light to create a channel of space that would flow through a family home. And I'd just gotten married just before my last year, and I was hoping I'd have a house full of kids. And so I was able to design my own house, and but this was it was just really, it was great. And I think that's where I first kind of got this idea that, we can have prompts to pray. We can, I was hoping that this channel of space would be a reminder that God's always with us, and to help us practice the presence of God, and to pray constantly, or as close as we can. So over the years, I'm still pursuing better prayer, closer prayer, and it's just kind of unfolded that with the resources I've been creating, I've been focusing more on prayer, not only for my own kids who are starting to go out in the world, and when they're on their own, I want to know that they know where to get answers, and they can pray about things, and that their faith is important to them, and it's a personal faith. So
Right.
I started to I'm always looking for practical tips. I keep thinking, there's just got to be something that's, the coin's going to drop, and I'm going to get better at this, or something like that. So with prayer, I discovered that, not only are there things that we see every day in our homes or in our neighborhoods that we can associate with prayer, so that they can be reminders for us to pray, but there are just an infinite number of things we can use as prompts. And I just found that trying to grow my prayer life, I felt that the biggest obstacle to my prayer life was, okay, everyone's busy, but I would forget to pray. And when I'm the most busy, or I'm stressed out, I'm trying to juggle a bunch of things, that's when I need to pray the most. That's when I need to remember that it's not all on me, and I need to rely on him. So
Right.
I started collecting these ideas, and thinking about how our daily tasks and daily habits, um, times of day, are pet peeves, little things that maybe drive us a little crazy, um, even our recurring thoughts and feelings, um, just all of these things that inevitably happen every day. If we can use them to remind us to pray, I mean, we could be praying all the time, right? So
No,
that's where it led to.
no, and in your book, I've got it right here. I love it because it takes and makes it practical. And what I love, so you were just talking about, visual cues. And so you have a chapter in here about visual cues. But I love how you've created these little worksheets that we can work through, so that it's like, when I see, the statue of the Blessed Mother, this is what I'm going to pray. Or if I hear an ambulance, or a fire, truck, then this is what I'm going to do. But I have to admit that, and you just have tons of practical, so here's the one: interruptions. Oh my goodness, do I need this? So interruptions, when someone interrupts me when I'm speaking, then I'm going to pray this. If someone interrupts my thoughts, or tells me what to do, or changes my plans, then I'm just going, oh, I need this so much. But my all-time favorite, and partially it's just because this has become such an important prayer for me, which is part of the novena, surrender prayer, but you do a beautiful job with Father Dolindo Rotolo's surrender novena, of where you give us the opportunity to do our own litany to surrender, of where we can say, what are the important things, what are the things that we struggle with, that we have to deliver, say, deliver me, Jesus, from, or every time, I turn the page, I'm like, oh, that is just so cool. And it's something I need to work with. Yeah.
That's great. Can you hear me?
I'm so excited and so glad. So am I losing you now?
Yeah.
Did I lose you?
Cutting in and out. Can you hear me though? Okay, I didn't hear an answer.
We'll be right back.
Okay.
Thanks everybody for hanging in. So are you back, Monica?
I'm here. I can't see you, but
I hear you.
okay. Okay, I see me.
Hmm?
I can hear you.
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
no, our internet completely dropped. As I was telling you before, the joys of living in small town Alabama. But hopefully we'll be holding throughout. But as I was saying, I'm just so glad that you've written, Prompt Me to Pray. It is such a beautiful and practical book. But on the other hand, you go back 20 years, and how did the publishing process of releasing a book change for you, from the time that you did your family liturgical, book, to doing your Prompt Me to Pray? I'm presuming it was a little bit different experience.
It was a little different. You know, actually, I had a publisher lined up for Prompt Me to Pray. I I had a publisher lined up for the first book, A Treasure Chest, and the one company that wanted it, they wanted to take out, the odd word like sin or Lent. So
Oh,
it
wow.
was a Catholic company, but
Yeah.
we decided it wasn't quite our focus. So we decided to self-publish, and it went really well. It's been a fun experience. The kids still talk about these Catholic conferences we used to go to, and these poor little bookstores we'd fled with our kids. We'd always buy something, and I think they'd probably buy something to get rid of us. But it was a good experience. And then when it came to this book, I thought, well, this is a different audience. I think this could appeal to all ages, like teenagers and men and women. And
Yep.
I've gotten amazing feedback. I've gotten um, just some recommendations that have blown me away. It's been really positive. Um, and the process, I mean, I love design. So I still have that part of me from architecture and just layout and everything. Just it excites me so much, and I got it to a point where I really liked it, and I thought I felt really strongly with how it was all laid out. And then a friend of mine who's a professional graphic design artist, he took a look at it and he gave me just a couple of recommendations, and then it just blew me away. Like it was a book. It was the book, and it was ready to go. So it's been really exciting. And there were two things that I wanted to mention when you were talking. So one is, it because it has these pages that are workbook pages,
Mm.
it's really it's a prayer book. Um, it's a prayer book,
Journal.
but it's also a prayer journal. And
Yeah.
if you do take the time to write in it, I
Mm.
mean, my dad probably still hasn't written in his. He just can't bring himself to write into a book. I have to
Uh-huh.
write his name on a book so that he knows he can't give it away, and then maybe he'll write in it. And just sometimes the first time you write in a book, like that's a little sketchy, and you I don't know, it goes back to your library days. I don't know where you don't want to write in a book, but once you customize it, and it's the same with, just the level of tailoring that you can do, like the surrender prayer that you talked about, when you really tailor it to your life, your circumstances, your state in life, your weaknesses, your struggles, it becomes your prayer. And we
Mhm.
have so many beautiful classic prayers in our tradition, and a lot of those are in here as well. So the combination of those classic prayers and then the prayers that you've customized and made your own, it becomes like a nice reference tool. It's not like a prayer journal that you throw away or burn or put on a shelf somewhere, but you can go back and just revisit it. The other thing I wanted to say was, I think my favorite prompt to pray
Mhm,
is a little discovery I made in the process of writing the
mhm.
book, and that was what Saint Therese would call our littleness. So
Uh,
I
yes.
just one day I was praying in a chapel, and I realized, you know what inevitably happens. Like if I could find the thing that inevitably happens every single day, like that would be the best prompt to pray. It's so reliable.
Mm,
And
yeah.
what I realized was, yeah, every day I can be frustrated or discouraged by my own weakness, my faults, my failings, the sins that I keep confessing at confession, any struggles I'm going through. Often when we're impatient, it's because we want to try to do something ourselves, or we're trying to keep control of everything, or we're just trying to rely on our own strength. And
Mhm,
so if we look at those things that, you know, the things that we struggle with as prompts to pray, I mean, those are really powerful reminders to pray. And actually, at those moments when we need to pray the most,
mhm.
and Saint Therese would say, she wasn't discouraged by her littleness. She embraced her littleness because she said, you know, the more humble I am and I recognize my faults and my failings and my struggles, the more eager Jesus is to lift me up and carry me the rest of the way. So we just, it's that constant, we need a constant reminder sometimes to surrender and to not try to rely on our own strength. And so in those moments, if those are the moments that we use to remind us to pray, then we could be praying very often, and we can maybe have a practical plan for consistent prayer and from the heart. It hopefully it's we're not just rhyming off a list of petitions that we'd like him to take care of, but we're actually telling him what we're thinking and feeling, and we're thanking him, and we're grateful for all he's done. We are probably asking him for things, but it's more of a two-way communication if we allow ourselves to listen sometimes too, and try to listen for his message to us in our hearts. So I
Yeah.
guess the point of all the prompts is that, you know the most important thing actually is, like, not to just open the book and go, oh my goodness, there are so many prompts, like I can't possibly. And you shouldn't. Like, if you find one or two that appeals to you, like, focus on that. And it takes a while to make a habit, but if it's something that really fits with you and fits with your life and your littleness, or whatever it may be, whatever you choose, it'll be a customized prompt that works for you. And if you focus one at a time, it seems to be the most helpful.
No, and that's a part of why I've recommended your book to so many people who are, struggling to get into that habit of prayer, of where I was just like exactly what you were describing, which is there's tons of suggestions that you can try, and then maybe that's what cements your habit. And don't give up, even if that one doesn't work. Hey, you got a whole bunch more that are in there, and they're it's one of those that I think in our journey, we forget the challenging part of our spiritual life is to persevere.
Right.
And it's to not give up, but rather keep trying, keep getting up and keep trying. And don't, convince yourself or let the devil convince you that you're never going to be able to pray every day, or that you're never going to be able to figure this out, and you're never going to be able to pray from the heart, or that you need tons of time, blocks of time in order to be able to pray. And that's something that I talk to moms about all the time, and I know you can identify very well that there's times and seasons, and there's some times when we don't get much more than we get to pray as we're folding laundry or doing the dishes. But then there's other seasons where there are those blocks of time. It might be, that we're taking the kids to swim practice, or, we're taking them to something or another, and we have to be present, but we're not engaged. And hey, here's an opportunity, especially if it's a group of kids, here's an opportunity to pray for all of them. But that's where my Ignatian, training comes out, is to be able to be a contemplative in the midst of action, and to know that the quiet stillness of God's voice can be found anywhere, because He's always whispering to us. We just have to tune in to it. But I absolutely love your book, and I'm so happy that John Paul, Saint John Paul II, he said for you to keep doing it, because we because of it. But before we kind of wrap up, I wanted to remind people that, you showed up the Saint calendar before, what you had put together for the Catholic Mom Advent Bundle. And so that's going to be available for people to buy this coming Monday, November 16th. So I really encourage people, to keep an eye out, because there's like, I have a couple of things that are a part of it, but for, I think it's what, $25. And it's like you get 40
right.
different, it's just a phenomenal deal. So keep an eye out for that. But then also, where can people find your products, your things that you have been doing, and also get a hold of your books?
So actually, can I just mention one thing for before?
Go for it.
When you were talking about obstacles to prayer, and being able to find quiet in any situation and everything, I think there's also a temptation to say, well, I can't pray right now. Like, I'll pray when the kids go to school. I'll pray when I retire. I'll pray when I'm at the cottage. And I think God, He wants us to pray. He wants to pray while where we're at. He wants
Yep.
to meet us where we're at, and He's not expecting the perfect circumstances. And I think if we're waiting for the perfect circumstances, it's just not going to happen. So there's chaos. There could be things flying around the house, and I mean, it can be. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be a rosary at that moment. It can be a quick, Jesus, I trust in you, as things are falling apart around you. And just I thought I can relate to that a lot. So as far as my Catholic products and gifts, so I have a blog, and it's called Equipping Catholic Families, and I'll give you the link to share. And I
I'll put
really
it so people can find it as well.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's wonderful. So I, from time to time, I'll talk about different crafts and activities and family traditions that we've used to help celebrate the seasons and the feast days of the liturgical calendar. I also feature the products from my shop, and my shop's name is Armaday, which means armor of God. So I'll give you that link as well. And
Yep.
in that one little shop, so I think we have 3 or 4 books, and we have over 50 Catholic craft kits that are packed with catechisms, saints, sacraments, and prayer. We now have rubber stamps with all these cute little saints. And then we have quizzing cards. We have 3 different kinds of quizzing cards, including the super saints.
Mhm.
And so people can find me there. I'm always, my happy place is creating things like this. And I have these awesome illustrations that started with Kelly, my daughter, and I just keep adding. And so I'm looking at making kind of I think I'm going to call them like quick start guides to prompt me to pray. So what we can use in the various seasons of the liturgical calendar, what we can learn from the saints, and what we can learn from the sacraments as well. So how we can turn to those awesome parts of our Catholic faith as prompts to pray. So those will be different programs, and maybe other PDFs will be added over time. So
Awesome. Well, I look forward to those. And as you were sharing the story, I forgot to mention, but when you were sharing the story about World Meeting of Families, I think that is where I came across your saint cards. And you know, so it's like I had a pack, and then they were, you know, one family that would come over, and they loved, and I just had to give them to the little boy who just loved them so much. And but
wow.
no, it triggered. I'm just like, that's it. Okay, now I.
Oh,
So
that's neat.
God has been trying to connect us for a few years now. So I'm
Yeah.
so finally did. And so it's been such a joy to spend this time with you, Monica. And I really encourage people to go and to check out everything that she's doing as part of her ministry. So her blog at equippingcatholicfamilies.com. And then, of course, her shop at armadei.com. And that's ARMADEI.com. And so I'll put that in the show notes for people as well. But it's been such a joy. But then also, what a beautiful gift to give somebody for Christmas. So go out
Thank you.
and prompt me to pray. And also my book too. So
That's right.
having got my book, say yes, you know, then go out and get a copy of that as well. But yeah, so lots of great opportunities to continue to grow closer to God and become more like Jesus. And thank you for everything that you do, Monica. It is so inspiring and encouraging to me to be able to meet other people who are doing what they can in order to spread the gospel and help people be able to live the life God wants for them. So I appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
All right. You have a good one. And